What if a nation could rise from total destruction to become the most advanced society on Earth, only to fall again into decades of stagnation? This is the unbelievable story of Japan, a country that defied the odds twice. In less than a century, Japan went from feudal isolation to global dominance, then to ashes after World War II, and back again to economic superpower status. But something went wrong. The same country that once shocked the world with innovation and discipline found itself trapped in a cycle of decline. Today, Japan faces a new battle not on the battlefield, but against time itself. So, how did Japan rise, fall, and is it truly rising again? Let's dive deep into the story of a nation that refused to surrender. It all began in 1868, when a teenage emperor named Mutsuhito, later known as Emperor Meiji, took power. At the time, Japan was still a feudal society ruled by samurai, isolated from the world for more than 200 years. The outside world saw it as backward, even primitive. But that was about to change. Fearing colonization by Western powers, Japan's leaders made a radical decision. If we cannot beat the West, we must become like them. And so began the Meiji Restoration, one of the most dramatic transformations in history. Samurai gave up their swords for suits, factories replaced rice paddies, and steamships filled the harbors of Tokyo and Yokohama. Japan studied the best of every nation British naval tactics, German education, American business practices, and fused them into something uniquely Japanese. In just a few decades, Japan became the first Asian nation to industrialize successfully. By the early 1900s, the world was stunned. Japan defeated China in 1895 and Russia in 1905. A shocking victory that announced Japan as a global power. This tiny island nation had done the impossible. It had become an empire. But power breeds ambition. By the 1930s, Japan was no longer content with trade it wanted territory, resources, and dominance. Driven by a militaristic government, Japan invaded Manchuria, then China, and finally launched a surprise attack on Pearl Harbor in 1941, dragging the United States into World War II. For a time, Japan's empire spread across Asia. But the tide turned. By 1945, its cities were reduced to rubble. Two atomic bombs, Hiroshima and Nagasaki, ended the war and brought the empire to its knees. Over 2.5 million Japanese died, and for the first time in its history, the nation surrendered unconditionally. When the war ended, Japan wasn't just defeated, it was humiliated. Its emperor denounced his divine status, its military disbanded, and American forces occupied the country. The world expected Japan to fade away into obscurity. But that's not what happened. Under American occupation, Japan faced a total rebuild. General Douglas MacArthur, the Supreme Commander, reshaped the nation, introducing a new constitution, democracy, women's rights, and land reforms. But the real secret of Japan's second rise lay not in politics, but in work ethic and innovation. The Japanese people, disciplined and resilient, rebuilt their cities brick by brick. Factories reopened, students flooded schools, and industries modernized faster than anyone imagined. Then came an unexpected twist: the Korean War, 1950 to 1953. The United States needed supplies and turned to Japan for everything from uniforms to machinery. This became Japan's economic lifeline. By the 1960s, Japan's economy was booming. Companies like Toyota, Sony, and Panasonic symbolized a new kind of Japanese excellence: reliable, efficient, and affordable technology. From radios to cars to cameras, made in Japan became a global badge of quality. Between 1955 and 1973, Japan's economy grew by an average of 9% per year, one of the fastest growth rates ever recorded. Tokyo's skyline soared, bullet trains glided across the country, and the 1964 Tokyo Olympics announced to the world, Japan is back. But success breeds overconfidence. By the 1980s, Japan was unstoppable. It was the world's second largest economy, buying up landmarks in New York and dominating global technology. Western nations feared a Japanese takeover. Books even predicted that Japan would soon surpass the United States. But behind the glittering surface, cracks were forming. Fueled by cheap credit and speculation, Japan's stock market and real estate prices skyrocketed. Companies borrowed massive sums, banks lent recklessly, and the value of Tokyo land reached absurd levels. One report claimed the imperial palace was worth more than all the real estate in California combined. Then, in 1991, the bubble burst. The stock market collapsed, property values plunged, and banks were left with mountains of bad debt. The once unstoppable Japanese economy came to a screeching halt. This was the beginning of the so-called lost decade, a period of stagnation, deflation, and hopelessness that lasted far longer than 10 years. In reality, Japan would spend nearly 3 decades trying to recover. The 1990s tested Japan's resilience more than any war ever had. Growth slowed to nearly zero. Prices stopped rising, and entire generations lost faith in the future. Young people delayed marriage, birth rates plummeted, and an aging population became the new crisis. Japan's once vibrant cities started to feel eerily quiet. Rural towns emptied out as the elderly remained and the youth left. Economists called it the demographic time bomb, a slow, irreversible challenge that no economic policy could easily fix. The 1990s tested Japan's resilience more than any war ever had. Growth slowed to nearly zero. Prices stopped rising, and entire generations lost faith in the future. Young people delayed marriage, birth rates plummeted, and an aging population became the new crisis. Japan's once vibrant cities started to feel eerily quiet. Rural towns emptied out as the elderly remained and the youth left. Economists called it the demographic time bomb, a slow, irreversible challenge that no economic policy could easily fix. And yet, Japan did what it always does best: adapt. While other nations raced to compete in volume and scale, Japan focused on precision and quality. It embraced robotics, automation, and cutting-edge manufacturing. In fact, Japan became the global leader in industrial robots machines that now build the products of the future. The country also reinvented its global image-turning culture into an export. Anime, manga, fashion, gaming, and cuisine became worldwide phenomena. Tokyo became a symbol of futuristic culture mixed with deep tradition. Meanwhile, Japanese companies like Toyota led the world in hybrid and electric technologies. Startups began collaborating with Western tech giants in healthcare, and semiconductors. And Japan's government began investing in space exploration and quantum computing fields that could redefine the next century. But beyond technology, Japan's true rebirth is philosophical. A nation that once measured success by GDP and expansion began to rediscover something deeper: the art of balance. In a world obsessed with growth, Japan learned to value stability, harmony, and sustainability. Its cities remain among the safest, cleanest, and most efficient on Earth. Its people, though older, continue to work with unmatched dedication and purpose. So, is Japan rising again? Maybe not in the way it once did, but perhaps, in a more profound sense, it never truly fell. Yes, its economy slowed, and its population is aging. But Japan still holds the blueprint for resilience in the modern world: the ability to rise after ruin, to adapt after failure, and to rebuild with discipline rather than desperation. Today, Japan stands at a crossroads. It's not the empire of old, nor the booming giant of the 1980s, but something else entirely. A nation that's redefining success not through domination, but through innovation, balance, and endurance. As the world faces its own cycles of boom and bust, Japan's story reminds us of one truth: greatness isn't about never falling, it's about how you rise after you do. And if you enjoyed the video, make sure to like and subscribe, and check out the channel to find more amazing and new videos.